In the reality we live in, man, Steph Curry is a loyal lifer, a rock star icon in the Bay Area. He's more than likely never leaving Golden State. But boy, oh boy, if there was ever an opportunity for this dude to leave, even at this stage of his career, and the league would flip upside down. I'm ready for it. What about y'all? Let's talk about it. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Qosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Qosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated. And man, I've got a very fun episode planned today. A lot of articles that I read, a lot of internet chatter, I suppose, has been swirling about the potential for Steph Curry to be on the move from the Golden State Warriors. And in this episode, of course, we're going to explore just that, man. But before we dive into the content, do me a huge favor, like the video. Liking the video helps us cruise along algorithm avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals just like yourself who might be interested in this kind of content. Hype the video as well and subscribe to the channel for more content. Man, listen, I'm not going to belabor the point any further. I'm entitling today's episode The Best Steph Trade. Man, Boston, both rather Celtics and Spurs are in the mix. Boston is a very intriguing, destination potentially for Steph Curry. San Antonio is a very intriguing destination for Steph Curry. Is Steph Curry likely on the move? Man, who knows? You know what I mean? Kind of the spin machine and the speculation machine has been swirling about, man, through the latter part of last week, with folks just kind of talking about it, getting excited about it, et cetera. The potential of it happening, the likelihood, I don't know. But I did find some articles, a few articles that I'm going to read through. One particular article came from Bleacher Report, so I'm going to dig into that one. And then the other one was from a website called Fansided. So I'm going to read both those articles, and we're going to discuss, and I'll share my opinions, obviously, on which of the teams I think Steph Curry should actually play for. But before I again dive into the information, I just wanted to kind of talk about Steph as a player, approaching like age 39, coming up in this season. Steph still got far more than a little bit left in the gas tank. And man, the dude is a prolific shooter. I think for many seasons to come, he'll be able to just continue to be a threat on the floor, even if he just has to be relegated to I mean, not really defend well throughout his whole career, but he's just relegated to the guy who just stands in the corner. You know what I mean? Like defends a little bit, which is not a stretch for Steph Curry. But if he just becomes a guy who teams rely on to just knock down open threes, Steph could quite possibly have a career that spans, realistically another 10 years. You know what I mean? Like seriously, with his prowess as a shooter. But again, as I alluded to in the intro, the thing with Steph Curry is, and one of the things that kind of defines Steph Curry is his loyalty to Golden State, and rightfully so. Like I said, the dude's an icon in Golden State. He is, rock star out there, beloved in the Bay Area, and that's for bringing championship glory to that franchise. Not one, not two, not three, but four rings in Golden State. On his watch. So, in an era essentially that many will argue is the Steph Curry era of the NBA, it just seems kind of weird to, like think that he might go someplace else, knowing that he's not of the player empowerment ilk. I think, and that his career has played out as it has with his success in Golden State, I think it actually does make sense for him to move now, you know what I mean, to take up residency elsewhere now based on where the team itself is. And let's be clear, Golden State has never really built a juggernaut outside of the years they brought in Kevin Durant to be an additional scoring punch or add, I mean, just scoring explosiveness, but they top to bottom from a team roster standpoint, they never really had, you know what I mean, like these teams that you just thought they're going to run the table forever because they're solid at every position and with players coming off the bench. So, given Steph's age, Clay's gone, Dre's getting old too, you know what I mean? Like they have some really nice young pieces, some aging pieces, and a Jimmy Butler, a Kristaps Porzingis, you know what I mean, like who stays injured. But if Kristaps, Jimmy Butler say were healthy, Golden State might be a lot more intriguing, as potential for Steph to win something. You know what I mean, like to kind of as a fan still see him in a winning position. But I just don't think that that's realistic. You know what I mean? Like honestly, I just don't. Now we didn't think that Steph would help lead or lead the Golden State Warriors to the championship just 4 to 5 seasons ago, either in 2022. But he did. You know what I mean? Like with a very good supporting cast of players, they were able to win a championship. So, Steph's track record in Golden State, I would say, is one where, you know what I mean? Like his team being Golden State, in reality, a play-in team the last 3 seasons. You know what I mean? And like it's not a weird thing because Steph's, the in season, out of season, or one season to the next has been kind of weird, with the exception of, you know what I mean, like the run that they went on when they went to like 4 straight finals, I believe it was. So there is a bit of a roller coaster that kind of makes it difficult and tough to count, Steph out and to count the Golden State Warriors out, to say that it's like done, like their championship window is closed, like it's over with. They may as well wrap it up, get rid of Steph for that reason. I don't think it's that. I think that for the Golden State Warriors, in my opinion, it would be better for them to move off Steph right now, like move off of him now, to better set yourselves up for the future. But I'm just going to leave that at that. I want to get into this article, as I said. I want to get into the first article that was published on BleacherReport.com. And the article was written by a Zach Buckley. Shout out to Zach Buckley. One blockbuster NBA trade that could still happen this offseason, according to Zach Buckley. When LeBron James made his stunning move to the Philadelphia 76ers, it sparked a swath of reactions around the NBA world. Perhaps the loudest among them were the alarm sirens sounded by the Golden State Warriors, because once James settled on anyone but them, an apparently easy call, by the way, their hopes became perhaps irreparably damaged. Let me put a pin in it right there real quick. It makes sense for LeBron James to go to Golden State. Like, again, the Steph teaming up with stuff would have been dope. It would have been a ratings bonanza, of course, but it would have been really kind of feel good at a moment that I don't think basketball fans really need, like that kind of feel good, because you don't want to partner these two dudes up just to lose and they're going to get the dog shit beat out of them. You know what I mean? Like without good pieces around them, like they were just not going to be, you know what I mean, like a contending team. So it makes sense for LeBron to go there. Why would LeBron go there? Because that's, you know what I mean, like not a suitable thing for his narrative at this point. You know what I mean? Like teaming up with stuff, like for what? And besides, Kevin Durant already did that and went out there and created some championship glory with stuff. So will LeBron James be essentially then following in Kevin Durant's footsteps? That would be strange. Moving on to through the article. Not that adding James alone would have thrust the Warriors into the championship conversation. That's what I mean. But at least folks would have had reason to talk about this team. Without James or Jimmy Butler for the foreseeable future, the Warriors appear essentially irrelevant, which feels inexplicable and unforgivable for a team employing Steph Curry. Curry, in the words of the Athletic's Marcus Thompson II, wants to win and wants a chance, a real chance, for a deep playoff run. For some, that will be all the fuel they need to sprint toward the nearest trade machine and torch Golden State's remaining asset collection for the best Curry co-star they can buy. But maybe the Warriors can't offer what Curry really needs. Maybe his best NBA future resides in a different place than his NBA past and present. To be clear, Golden State doesn't appear in immediate danger of losing Curry. This is much more of a thought exercise and a crystal ball based prediction. But if winning drives his decision making, this could be the right time to split from the only NBA squad he has known. So let's find him a new hoops home, shall we? Curry to Boston, man. Why the Boston Celtics do it. When Celtics president of basketball operations Brad Stevens explained his rationale for the club's pennies on the dollar return for all NBA second teamer Jaylen Brown, he cited the challenge of having 70% of our cap and such a high percentage of our usage tied into two players. Let me put a pin in it right there, just real quick. I did think that it was. I was wondering how is Boston going to be able to build a team around two max contracts? They gave both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum like $60 million a year or some crazy ridiculous contracts, 300 plus million. I was just like, how do you build around that? I knew it wasn't going to work, and clearly with this new second apron, it's just bro. That was a really easy thing to put some TNT to blow it up. Moving right back into the article, the trade. Boston Celtics received Stephen Curry. Golden State Warriors received Paul George, Chris Sanak Jr., 2027 first round pick, 2031 first round pick, and a 2032 first round pick swap. I mean, there's a way to make it work, right? Just coming off some pieces. To mention the Paul George, as they did here, do I think that Paul George needs to retire at this point? No, not quite. Do I think that Paul's best years of playing basketball are behind him? Yeah, that's not like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a hot take. He's old, he's aged, he's you know what I mean? Like hurt a bunch, has been hurt a bunch. So yeah, his best years are behind him. His contract is enormous, you know what I mean? Which makes it easy to kind of deal him around to match money, you know what I mean, so to speak. But value for value, obviously, man, there's no comparison in terms of what Paul is still able to give, and he played very well in Philadelphia through the playoffs last year. Shout out to Paul George. But value for value in terms of what Steph and collectively or comparatively, Paul George can bring to a squad, it's night and day. You know what I mean? Like apples and oranges. So, but yeah, there is many ways and many options for like offering draft picks, etc. Clearly, the trade capital is there, so it could possibly happen. But moving back into the article, but maybe Stevens's concern had less to do with the two-star setup than it did with Boston's particular two-star combo of Brown and Jason Tatum. Perhaps Boston was done having so much money and so many touches tied up in Brown, a notion advanced stats will support, with his career net differential of minus 1.3 points per 100 possessions. And maybe then the Celtics would still be open to slotting a second star alongside Tatum, who at 28 years old should be in the heart of his championship chasing prime. And maybe their analytics department will be wholly convinced of Curry's co-star credentials given his colossal plus 9.9 career net differential. Yo, plus 9.9 is crazy. When this man's on the court, teams up by three outside shots by Steph, like off top. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like this could be the kind of combo that not only breathes life back into Boston, but immediately gives it a real chance to escape the perpetually improving Eastern Conference. Curry's gravitational pull could be just what Tatum needs to unleash the full powers of his potent isolation game. Conversely, Tatum's scoring punch and secondary playmaking could give Curry the kind of offensive support and relief Golden State has failed to provide him for years. Not to mention, having a two-headed monster leading this charge would allow Derek White to get back to his dot connecting best as a tertiary option. If Peyton Pritchard got squeezed out of the starting spot, he might immediately become the sixth man of the year favorite. Boston's young wings could fully focus on being off-ball energizers, and Curry could absolutely cook with a couple of rim-rattling lob finishers like Nehemiah Queta and Mitchell Robinson. And shout out to Boston for getting Mitchell Robinson away from New York. And it's not like, oh man, Mitchell's like that dude on the inside, but that, all the dirty work and all that stuff, if his wheels can hold up and he can play. But to go back to the Derek White comment also, like I like Derek White in Boston, I really do. I like the pieces that they have. So speaking of like Peyton Pritchard and stuff like that too, man. But if you could bring Steph out there with them, Boston already shot an enormous amount of threes, ill-advised threes, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like through last season, that's just the way that, you know what I mean? Like they play, that's their offense. They gonna jack them up, and you know who better to have in the lineup if you're just gonna let it fly from the outside than a Steph Curry. Certainly with Steph running off picks the way that he does to free himself up, you kind of have to play honest, or they would have to play honest. You would think defenders would, but naturally you can't help but pay attention to where Steph is roaming. But that definitely leaves a lot of sharp shooting, like, you know, opportunities rather for like a Derek White or for Peyton Pritchard as well. So, and you know, whomever else they have out there willing to let them fly. But why the Golden State Warriors would do it? A Warriors team without Curry at the franchise forefront. Sounds unrecognizable, doesn't it? Well, here's the thing. That day is coming regardless of how he and the team handle his twilight, and it's coming sooner rather than later. In fact, Golden State could be sitting on the cusp of a top to bottom overhaul, even without steering things into hypothetical trade territory. Just four Warriors have fully guaranteed salaries for 2027-2028, that being Moses Moody, Yaxel Lindenborg, Guy Santos, and Will Richard. Not only, or I'm sorry, not one is officially on the books beyond that. No one. That's not due to a total lack of foresight. In fact, Golden State has arguably had too big a fixation on the future. Warriors Governor Joe Lacob has a fear of what life after Steph will be like, per the Ringer's Logan Murdoch, and that fear has been the biggest reason the team has opted not to exchange more future draft picks for immediate help. Golden State, in a sense, wants to keep all of its options for the post-Curry era, which effectively forces it to accept mediocrity in the present Curry era. But this plan also works against that post-Curry era, since his mere presence prevents the kind of bottoming out that, prior to the latest lottery reform at least, could have delivered some blue chip prospects to the Bay Area. Yeah, I'm glad that they kind of have stopped or you know, kind of incorporated this new anti, you know what I mean, like tanking agenda, kind of just like rolled it out. We'll see what happens, you know what I mean, with that, and you know, just kind of how it plays out. But it definitely keeps teams from just tanking for no reason. The Warriors are on course to have a near wipe clean slate next summer. They'd cut into that with this blockbuster trade, as Paul George holds a $56.6 million player option for the 2027-28 season. But splitting from Curry might and should dial back the aggressiveness for 2027 free agency. Anyway, not to mention, free agency hasn't been the most fruitful place for meaningful additions under this collective bargaining agreement. It's true. They'd still have a ton of money coming off the books next summer, and they'd have two extra first-round picks, a first-round pick swap, and an intriguing prospect in Chris Sainat Jr. to help brighten their long-term outlook. So they'd be flexible for win now or win soon splashes if they chose to go that route, but they'd also be equipped to take a much longer view for roster reconstruction. Either way, they'd finally have a clear direction for the post-Curry years and more resources to help put that plan into action. And Curry, in turn, will have the chance to compete at a high level he so badly covets, plus the knowledge that he didn't leave his longtime employer high and dry. Sentimentally, it would be too painful to call this a win-win outcome, but objectively, this might make sense for the Warriors. So again, man, that article from BleacherReport.com. So yeah, I mean, a well-written article, like really, really good article. I like it. I like the thought, you know what I mean, of Steph Curry ending up in Boston. Again, many ways that they could make that happen because the draft capital is actually there. Incorporating Paul George in the mix, obviously, it would have to be. Probably have to get a couple teams involved, maybe even to really make it more realistic and make it make more sense. But yeah, I think that a Steph Curry, Jason Tatum pairing, man, would be crazy. It would be it would be sick. You know what I mean? So um, with Jason Tatum now being the only, like, I mean, the only real offensive threat, and as you know, being always been the number one option for that team. You know what I mean, as far as I'm concerned. But with him being the only person that the defense needs to like key in on, yeah, the game that I mean, the floor has just got a whole lot smaller for him. That half court is just kind of like, man, it's squeezed in on him because it's just going to be too hard for him. You know what I mean? Like to operate. It's almost like the double teams when the double teams are being sent at Ant Man. You know what I mean? Like last season or season before last, he was like, "Man, they doubling me every time. It's so annoying." It's like so easy to do when you really don't fear any of the other offensive threats. You're like, make the other guys beat us. Just take the ball out of this man's hands. So I think that will happen a lot with Jason Tatum without, you know what I mean? Another co-star will happen. But with Steph, he'd be able to now operate more going downhill in this, kind of 1v1 style of play. He just loves, like ISO is Jason Tatum's strength is like a superpower. You know what I mean? So the dude's a hell of a one-on-one basketball player. But yeah, it would definitely give him, more spacing, like better spacing, because you have to respect Steph, so the doubles wouldn't come, and that double team attention wouldn't be focused so much on Jason because you got to respect the greatest shooter on the planet. That being Steph Curry. So again, so that's the Boston look. I mean, I'd love to see him in Boston. I'll tell you which one I favor more toward the end, but I do want to talk about the other option being, potentially Steph to the Spurs. So a whole lot of NBA fans want to see Stephen Curry traded to the Spurs, but does it make sense? Getting Stephen Curry to the San Antonio Spurs would be the ultimate nuke on the Western Conference, but does it make sense for literally anyone involved? This article is published on fansided.com, was written by Oliver Fox. Shout out to Oliver Fox, um, for this article. So I'm going to dive into the article really quick, but I do want to say, like, before I even start this, process of reading Oliver's, take on the potential trade, I just want to share some insights, right, or my opinion. Would it make sense for Steph to be traded to San Antonio at this point? Like, fuck no, it wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, you have a San Antonio team, in my opinion, that is ascending, right? A young, rising superstar, megastar talent in Wemby. So you really, I mean, Dylan Hopper played great. Stephen Castle's amazing. They have all these other tertiary pieces. Why would you want to disrupt that growth for this young squad, that ability for them to develop and gel well together and to learn to win together and to build their brotherhood by bringing in, you know what I mean, somebody who's basically going to suck all the air out of the room in Steph Curry? I mean, you do it because it's Steph Curry. But does it really make sense? You know what I mean? So I do like the idea of this pairing. I just wanted to share that as kind of devil's advocate before I get into the article. But let's keep going. Stephen Curry has nothing to prove, but at least a little bit more to give. Yet, he's quarantined on an impossibly hopeless Golden State Warriors team with injuries, cap issues, and no avenue to contend in the ultra-competitive Western Conference next season or the season after that, at which point Curry will be 40 years old, and oh God, what do we do without Stephen Curry in the league? Oh, yeah. Scary times are coming, bro. There's a reason so many great love stories are tragedies. The Warriors and Curry have been joined in holy basketball matrimony for over 15 years, and neither would trade the experience for all the stars in the sky. But we're now at a point where trading Curry makes sense for both him and the Warriors. But could they actually trade stuff? The scandal. It's downright Shakespearean out here. But the internet artist of the trade machine think they have the solution. Steph to the Spurs. Should the San Antonio Spurs pursue Stephen Curry? That is really the question. Should San Antonio actually be interested in disrupting this young core to bring in Steph? Because Steph could definitely help them win now. He becomes a bona fide piece, a shooter. I don't think they had enough shooting in last year's or through the playoffs last year. They had the tendency to go ice cold, and once they went ice cold, that was it. They were able to get some up from the outside. Again, like I said, man, Dylan Harper played incredibly. They still have the Aaron Fox down there, so they have shooting, no question, but they don't have a Steph Curry. So moving right through the article. Send Curry to the San Antonio Spurs. According to Hoopsmatic, 8.9% of all trades in a 24-hour span included Curry, and over 30% of those sent him to the Spurs. And it's easy to do. De'Aaron Fox, some picks here and there, and wham, we have the most compelling pairing in the league overnight. Curry and Wemby pick and roll. I mean, are you kidding me right now? Yo, a Steph Wemby pick and roll. Wow. It's the kind of trade that is so fun, it might actually be too fun, like a college party. They got a little rowdy, a little too rowdy, and the cop showed up from a noise complaint. Curry on the Spurs would obviously be sick, but in life, unfortunately, we have to stop and think about the consequences of our actions before we start making irresponsible choices. So let's take an even killed look at how that would play out and decide if we actually want it. Fox got scapegoated for the Spurs' ignoble loss in the NBA Finals, mostly because at several junctures, Dylan Harper looked like the far better player. But I didn't necessarily agree that Fox was the problem for huge chunks of the series, and the Oklahoma City Thunder series too. Fox was the only one who wasn't afraid to shoot or dribble. Curry also would not be afraid to do either thing, but this still leaves us with the unsolvable issue of having Dylan Harper, a basketball Hercules, waiting to go the distance on the bench. What? Is Steph going to be the sixth man? Of course not. The trade makes no sense for the Spurs, or really for the Warriors. The problem, or at least the result, it's not actually a problem usually with a Steph-focused attack, is it has to be just that, Steph-focused. Curry is such a gravitational force that it's highly effective, but the Spurs didn't succeed with that style before and shouldn't blow up something that only really needed minor tweaks. Victor Wembanyama is the focal point, and the physical defenders at every surrounding slot is the win condition. They don't need Steph, but he does need them. This trade proposal is mostly about saving Curry, not the Spurs, who are pretty well and good without him. I don't think San Antonio's in the business of making goodwill trades for the benefit of NBA history and fan interest. But hey, Adam Silver could slip him a tax break. Yeah. Says, can he do that? Yeah. Think back to the stimulus that Dallas just got for giving away Luka for AD. And you know what I mean? Then they got the #1 draft pick in Cooper Flag. But yeah, give him a tax break or something. Make it happen. I don't know. In any case, this trade is not actually going to happen, so it's a moot point. Oliver says. So there's one other quick point I want to make about Curry and the present plight of his poor position. That's the price of love. The NBA is not Love Island. It's a ruthless business where owners lay off entire broadcast teams to pinch pennies. Curry and the Warriors have shown unshakable commitment to each other and seen unimaginable success from it. But unless one side decides to cash in on that success in a LeBron-esque move, this is going to end a touch sadly. If you ask Golden State fans, do they actually want to trade Steph? I mean, what's the point of milking a tiny bit of value after the most iconic sports person arguably in the history of your city? There are lines you just don't want to cross, and Curry has been everything to them. It's going to be a little sad, but I honestly vote to let it happen. All's well that ends well is a load of crap in sports. Nothing ends well otherwise. It wouldn't end. And so, yeah, man, dope article. Again, like I said, my thought process for me and, the ultimate answer to that question Yeah, it might not be a good idea for San Antonio if you're thinking about playing kind of the long game and just building with the kids, the young fellas, and letting them develop themselves into what San Antonio has an actual track record of building around their own homegrown talent, champions, right? And so if following that formula, we're following that history for them, you know what I mean? Um, is going to be kind of our driving force, right? That's the litmus. Then the reality is, yeah, Steph Curry would never play in a San Antonio uniform unless it was some, what I mean, like veteran minimum type situation, like LeBron James has been forced into as well. So, it is what it is. But would it really make sense, and would I really absolutely love to see Steph in a San Antonio, uniform playing alongside Victor Wembanyama? Man, I'd love it, bro. I love it. I think it would be just the kind of trade that could flip things, kind of upside down. The teams have already emerged. The younger teams have already emerged. San Antonio by themselves, if we don't touch it. Oklahoma City by themselves, if you don't touch it. Detroit's coming. Orlando's coming. Man, the Wizards this year are coming. The way that they're stacked up. Atlanta made a mark and a splash last year. They should be better. Clearly, we know LA, the Lakers, post LeBron are making serious moves. They're coming. Indiana's hopefully coming back. Boston's hopefully coming back. Um, you know what I mean? Like that's just to name a few that I could just think of off the top of my head. So who knows what's gonna happen, man? But all in all, man, this potential starting five for the San Antonio Spurs with Steph, man, it's like it is enough. It is enough to make you want to dream, right? Or me, anyway. I can't speak for y'all, but yeah, man. With young Dylan Harper ascending the way that he is, I forgot a little about they had signed Tobias Harris over from Detroit, so they were able to steal him, and coupling that, man, Wemby and Stephen Castle, and man, you got a mob. With Steph Curry on the team, they would have a stacked mob. That would be crazy good. So, you know what I mean? Like, who knows, man? It could be night night for the whole entire league. The better of the two trades clearly would be seeing Steph go to San Antonio, but at what expense? You know what I mean? But that would be the better fit for him, or the better outcome, the best situation, I'll say. That would be the best situation for Steph Curry. Would be to see him in San Antonio. So, no, who knows what will happen, man? I wouldn't mind seeing him in Boston. But again, these are just kind of hypothetical trades that are being proposed out there, being thrown, kicked around. So much scuttle about them, like I said, through the latter stages of last week in a very quiet sports talk weekend. You know what I mean? Like, this is my offering here. Hopefully, by the time I wake up in the morning, it manifests itself into breaking news. Steph Curry is set to join, drum roll, and we can get Steph out of Golden State, man, for a change. It's been great, but I just think it's time to move on, and you could do so respectfully right now, as opposed to wasting, man, his final years. And it would be a waste in his final years if, you know what I mean, we can't see Steph playing in some meaningful situations, and I want to see it. We kind of forced to see LeBron play in meaningful situations too, right? All these years. Why not Steph? And Steph's been incredibly loyal to the soil all this time. This is the kind of nod that I would give to some ring chasing and be like, all right, cool. Finally, Steph's getting his turn. Go ahead out there and chase you 1-2, champ. So, and that's been the basis of this episode. I don't thank you guys for tuning in. Like the video, as I said. Liking the video helps us cruise along algorithm avenue and get into the presence of others just like yourself. Subscribe to the channel as well, man. I will catch you guys in the next episode. Take care of yourselves. Until then, blessings.